Good afternoon. I'm Professor Park Young-jae from Sungkyunkwan University. Thank you for three speakers for presentations, especially the Policy Director Jeon Jin-woo from Kira and the Senior Researcher Lee Jae-sun. That was of a great help. I could see that you all identified all difficulties and challenges of companies in Korea. The problem is how can we solve these problems? I think that's a big challenge for us. Through distribution project, we have distributed a lot. I think, as it was mentioned, there are many mid to long-term technologies that needs further development. I think that could be future issues for us. Regarding this, we don't have many people from the floor, but if you have questions, we can take questions from the floor. Do you have any question? I don't think there will be many participants in the audience, but we can take a few questions if there are any. No question? Okay, then is there any question among the experts? First, maybe CEO Lee Gi-ju. I think you probably had a lot of thoughts on the presentations. I am CEO Lee Gi-ju of Soltech Robotics System. It's not much of a question. Rather, I'm running a small-sized company, and the senior researcher Lee Jae-sun's presentation, I could really sympathize with it, and I agreed a lot. SI-related job is related to the order of the clients. So all of the work is to do with new systems, new equipments. So rather than getting help, we have to make independent development. So it's very difficult realistically to find talents. Designing, manufacturing, and managing, we have to do everything together. So that was the difficulties we have, and I could see that it was suggested in the presentation. So supporting manpower or providing training, I think that's the plan for the future, and I think those projects can be helpful for us in the future. Thank you.
Well, currently, as far as I know, at the Korea, I think they are training people, but it's really because it's happening in Daegu. A lot of companies in different regions have difficulty accessing this. And I think what is short falling is in SI development. A lot of people actually categorize different technologies, and that's kind of the guideline. But in the training itself, because they are focused more on the what those that are learners, so they don't really talk about technologies very much, and there's a lot of not much of training programs that happening in the Seoul area. So maybe a training center can be established in Seoul region because a lot of companies are around this region, and more working level practicalities because concept and also the basic theories are all learned at schools. But practicals, we have a lot of retiring workers. I myself are also retiring soon. So we could actually invite them as lecturer and let them run more practical working level training programs. I think that would be very useful. So maybe Kyria, if you have any ideas on that. So Actually, we have not prepared any specifics, but I do understand what you are saying. And in the Seoul metropolitan area, it's true that there is a lot of demand for training. As I have also suggested in my presentation, robot sports introduction support center, or sort of having a hub or training center where people can retrain themselves, that could be located within Seoul metropolitan area. So I believe in Kumi, we trying to build a operator training center, and with the finance minister, we will have a constructive negotiation so that maybe second training center can go to Seoul metropolitan area.
Yes, so we are looking forward to it. So let's take a turn. So Deputy Hwang Jae-ik from Zeus. I am Hwang Jae-ik from Zeus. It's not much of a question, but Director Chun Jin-woo from Korea made a good presentation, and I understand what you said, and I agree with you in terms of the future direction that we want to go. So I was very interested in what you said. You mentioned about the manufacturers and SI companies need to establish soft cooperative system, and I'm here as a company representative. We have a booth, and as we have announced a new product, we believe that we have prepared booths where we can show our product to other agencies, and that was the theme for us to participating in this conference. So I think that was a good opportunity for us. This is just beginning for our company. It has not been many years since we started robot manufacturing, but the existing relations between robot makers and SI, the manufacturers, I believe that we can contribute even a little bit to enhance the good relation between the two sectors. We hope to see many advice and support from Korea. Tomorrow, we will have a discussion with our clients, so we can share what was talked about here with them and find the ways for cooperation and mutual prosperity. What we felt was that no matter how good robots that we make, if the SI companies cannot really understand, then those robots cannot really be utilized very well. So we want the clients to understand those robots well. So that will be helpful as robot producers. So that's the direction that we want to take.
Yes, thank you very much. Zeus, I think the companies established only short ago, but you are very aggressive in investment, and you are the assembly robot. Although you have a lot of collaboratory robots being produced nowadays, but so you are in the right direction, because 95% of the robots are what you are making. So I think policy-wise, we also need to focus on that. Another important thing is robot system. We also need to think about robot system. So not a robot per se. There are different robots for different functions, like those for the welding or other work. And welding is kind of very tough process. So you need different software components for that specific work, and which is not easy to do. So general robot, a lot of even large companies also act as a SI because of that. So service robots are just a robot system, not just robot per se. And system is really hard because it encompasses a lot of different things. So I believe we need a lot of efforts in that area, and systems are investing a lot in these areas. And in Europe, ABB and Qualcomm, there are only two robot makers, but a lot of many SI companies. So robot makers, they could, as large companies could create robots as a component or parts level, and that can be assembled together by the SI companies. That's kind of win-win partnership. And I think robot maker plus the system companies, they all need to in partnership, because if you also think of on the system level, that actually expands our business opportunities. And also, 푸른 기술 CEO 정홍삼, do you have something to say?
Please use microphone. Please use microphone. Please use microphone for interpretation service. Please use microphone for interpretation service. Please use microphone for interpretation service. It's been 10 years since we were doing the business, and then we had some problems. That's why we did our consultation, and standardized processing model was developed. Also the safety consulting and all of that. I think we now have a system to some extent, but what's important from now on is to do each and every one of them properly. I think regarding the robot SI technology, I think modularization and standardization is important, and collecting all SI companies and together, I think that's necessary for the future. The standard processing model development project has led to R&D model. I don't know the details of the project, but I hope all of these details can be included in the project. One of the most difficult aspects of this is that robot SI companies have different levels of difficulties. For instance, if it's a semiconductor industry, it's difficult on its own, and also the welding process and the painting also, all those industries require many different know-hows, and unless you have that know-how, the automation utilizing robot would be impossible. So some areas have a high entry barrier.
Agree what the problem is, but the SMEs are very, poor, so they don't really have any cash flows to invest heavily in one area. So I think one-on-one matching is even burdensome to them. Objectively, one-on-one matching sounds really nice. Everybody wants to do that, but in reality, it's really difficult. And with the COVID-19, a lot of companies are suffering. So I think rather than one-to-one matching, like R&D projects, maybe if we lessen burden of small companies, I think a lot of more companies will be interested. And I hope that a lot of people then would want to do that. So I hope that the agency would secure budget toward that and really get it going. Because SME companies, if they cannot use robots, they will not become competitive. Like we heard from Malaysia, and not only Malaysia, Singapore, and Thailand, in some ways, automation is much better in their SMEs because they have a lot of Japanese investment injections. And in case of China, they are pushed by the government level. A few decades ago, we also had a lot of strong government push, which is kind of dwindling now. So we need to pick that up again. Now, Professor Kim, about when was it you did automation in Samsung Electronics? Was it 25 years ago or 30 years ago? About 20 years ago. So Samsung Electronics automation, he's living witness of that. So please.
Out of all the presentations, I actually have a question. So let me ask a question. And my question is to Director Jeon-jin Woo of Korea. You mentioned that major robot manufacturers and the SI companies need to strengthen their cooperation, and we need measures to that. And do you have any detailed ideas about the strengthening the cooperation? Because you mentioned that Japan has the SI standardization already ready, including the qualification program. It means that they have their own cooperative system among different companies. So certificates and qualification is needed to cooperate. It's not that the other way around. So once they've reached that stage, it tells us that the cooperative system among different companies is very active. And when it comes to cooperating and building trust among different companies, all this SI standard and the qualification system are necessary. In this regard, I think Korea is still having SI producers and robot producers are not really in a proper cooperative relations. And if you have any detailed ideas about how to strengthen this cooperative relation.
So actually, any specific ideas that I could present, I don't have it now, but if you look at the current status, if you look at few Korean big players, as I said in my presentation, in Korea, like a distribution agency, they use that for partnership. On extreme cases, for win-win result, they share technology or do training together, or difficult, tough, complicated technologies cannot be solved on a distributor level. Then head office engineers go to support them. Some actually do, but there are also a lot of cases where they just ship the products and that's it. So for our Korea, what we can do is that we do have incentive system kind of to get the win-win results. So once you are within our ecosystem of support program, and if you see the win-win opportunities, we could give priority for that to them to win support. That could be a way. But if you also hear what the manufacturers say, they also say it's very difficult to see who are the best companies. In that case, then, as I already said, like on a company level, the levels of the companies or technology level or their manager competencies, that can be kind of proven through objective qualification or certification regime. So all this, of course, needs to be happening together to actually get the results. So I know I'm very talking on a high level. Apologies, but that's my opinion. Thank you.
Do we have any question from the floor at this point? We are just talking among ourselves, but feel free to ask any questions. My name is Hong Jae-ho from Uri Vision. I'm highly interested in the robot SI, so I'm participating in an expert council, and I've discovered a few clients myself. And in Korea, if one wants to establish robot SI producer, is there any support I can receive? Can you make your question more detailed? I think it depends on the cases. There could be some programs you can participate. Korea, for instance, has a distribution program. If you want to participate in the program as a SI provider, then you can receive some benefits. Or for now, we do not have any concrete project targeting exactly SI providers only. I'm responsible for robot consultations, so I've discovered a few clients for robot, and so those companies want robot system. But existing SI companies, I believe there are a few, but if a new SI company is to be established, for instance, Gwangwon University has a cobot program, and the students can get a job where they can create a company. So if they want to create a robot SI provider, and although they cannot provide highly difficult solutions, they can provide some simple solutions. So if you have any startup support program, that would be good, because that's something lacking in Korea right now. And because we don't have any support program like that, even Zeus is here for the IVS challenge, because it wants young people to show their ability, and they can also open a new startup. I think that was the concept. And if young people can learn about robots and apply for simple solutions, and they can do lease or rental businesses or do service businesses. So I want to see if any light SI startup support programs. And because there are not many programs like that in Korea, some students would participate in a cobot program, a cobot course for 6 months. They cannot really get a job, and they are too afraid to open a new startup. I think that's the issue that I've noticed. So maybe the professor Kim Jong-hyun or Dr. Lee Jae-sun, if you have any ideas, then it'd be great if you can share those. I actually have experiences. My name is Kim Jong-hyun. I'm professor at Seoul Science and Technology University. I actually participated in a future entrepreneur support project as a mentor. Especially, I provided mentoring in a robot sector. I think I have a good idea. The SI problem is now that it's very customized and varies in terms of the demands. But when the size of company is big, it's difficult to customize because the profitability would be low. So profitability is my focus. For future entrepreneurs or future startups, as of now, they start as a distributor in a small size, so they would attach grip, etc. But still, the profitability is not that high. So they normally do a startup with a small tool or a vision, or they would have a robot system monitoring software, so they would utilize these solutions and tools for a startup when they run business. And I do believe we need some support program so that they can create some profits. The standard process model project, for instance, there are many issues that we need to customize. And the startups with a few years of experience may be given some outsourcing work, and we can do some managing works from the research institute or the association in cooperation with those startups. And if we make those cases successful, I think those startups can have more opportunities in the future. The startups with only few years of experiences, they may not have a strong cooperative network with other companies, so they may face some difficulties. But if we can include those startups in our standard process model as a outsourcing companies and allow them participate in our consortium, then those startups can get work. So that's good for them. And because they can be included in a consortium, they can create partnerships. Also, institutes or agencies can provide some technological advice. So that's about securing safety. So I think that could be a good solution.
I hope that answered your question. But as I said, SI is a very vast area, so depending on which area talking about, it's all different. But core technologies you need to know. So, like, you need 10-year experience, engineer, 2-3 years of investment to have something that's working well. So, practical implementation is really tough because machine has some troubles, then it doesn't run for a few weeks, then it ends up costing a lot of money. So I think you need to make your products more credible and trustworthy, because if one stop makes you lose a lot of money, they will not opt for your machines or robots. And that's why a lot of SI companies now want to use Korean robots. I mean, for simple jobs, okay, but for very sophisticated or complicated work, they opt for other countries' robots. So, where should we focus? Robot manufacturing or the SI companies' growth? I think we need to do both. So, we need to grow, of course, Korean robots so they can compete head to head with the foreign made robots, so that Korean robots can grow. But I think the core of the issue is that the training system or the education system, the robotics and SI, is not really well made in Korea. Like, where do we teach them? Maybe we just let them learn at some companies, a few this and that on a practical level, but that's it. And then you have to take a test to get your certificates, but there's no textbook to prepare for the test. So I think there are different types of educational programs, but I think the first thing, we need to develop the right textbooks. And what I really was surprised in Japan was they have hundreds of textbooks. We translate them, but we need our own. We need our own that with which we can teach our students, and we need teachers that can teach them to the students. So overall, there's a lot of area that needs growth. So we need to have an overall picture, whereas we are only looking at the trees, not the forest. And another issue is that there's a lot of problems, but there are not solutions forthcoming. So I hope that the government takes a look at it and get a systematic view and a long-term view for maybe at least 10 years or so. So are there any other questions, please? Yes, good afternoon. I'm Ijuno from Waterhouse. Now, of the things that Police Director John said, the robot SI challenges, I really like that part. And this also talked to the difficulties that I face on my daily lives. And you did a really good analysis based on their surveys. And I looked at Youth Robot exhibition booth today, and they have they say they're recruiting people experienced workers as well as new workers. And we are also always on a recruit. So my question is to maybe Policy Director John. Now, junior college or college graduate majoring in machine engineering, they don't want to go to SMEs. Wage is not that attractive. And secondly, they are hesitant of the future vision, whether there is a future in the company. And it's really tough work. So for government to support small companies hiring people, they have something called youth employment program. But a lot of SI companies, when I say I'm doing in robot, they say, oh, that's a good business item. There's a good potential. But, you know, long term might be good, but we are suffering today. A lot of experts are in shortage, and a lot of people are, about to retire. So conceptual design, once a layer of this set, detailed design. I mean, the current workers can do now, but up to maybe max 5 years. But after 5 years, after 10 years, each company, those on so-called master level, maybe on a director or executive director level, they don't have anybody, young people, to teach their expertise and skills to. So we have the head and kind of the foot, but not kind of the waist, the middle type of workers. So we need more middle level workers. And you talk about training centers, but it's a vast training that's required. And designers at current SI companies is that you need some templates or format to teach. Yes, we can make them, but the thing is the students are not there. So because those that majored in machine engineering at four-year college, I mean, we as a company, as SMEs, we cannot really hire them with a high wage because we don't know their competency yet. So SMEs prefer high experienced workers. So we give about 30 million annual salary to them. So maybe with the government support, we can give them more. And if we teach them 2 or 3 years as a company employee, then we know what the worker is capable or not. And to retain them after that, we would invest a lot in that new hire so that we hire through the government support. So separate from this youth hiring program, not only SIs, but a lot of workers now want less burdensome work in the but designing on the detail high-level level, it's not easy. It's a lot of headaches. So they eschew those kind of work. But so company needs to give them vision for the future career, and we need to train them so that train them and allow them to be constructive workers within our ecosystem. And if the new recruit come, they leave because they did not like the wage. So there's a lot of pieces that are missing. I know there's a lot of support systems, but if we don't hire new people, the middle level workers, then after 5 to 10 years, I'm sure there will be no future of our industry. So I hope that you will think about that. Of course, we need to find new customers, explore new customers, but this is what the SI company need to do. Doesn't really require government support. But the fact that we are shortage of people and that can become a serious problem 5 to 10 years down the road is something of a serious nature in terms of issue. Well, that's a tough issue. I think rather than giving the right answer, let me just based on few assumptions, let me answer. I think that is only the best I can do given this current situation. I mean, I've been hearing those issues for few years now. So how to solve that is something I'm also struggling now. Now, combining pieces together to have some policies, yes, that's what we need to do. And my 2 cents in there is that the robot or SI manpower, rather than teaching concepts or theories, we need more practical training, maybe more case study based training, because we need to give them experience. Like the site workers, calibration, setting, they do wonderfully, although they studied maybe real estate at college. So you don't really need engineering background or machine engineering or robot majors. So if they know how to use tools and if the technology is modularized, putting pieces together, inject your ideas so they can work really on the production line, then you are a good worker. And we need this type of people. So this type of manpower is something we need to train. Echo 42 was really highlighted these days as a best practice, and I'm also suggesting to various local governments. Then maybe Network 42 kind of thing can also be in the robot area, but without a curriculum like Professor Park, this experienced experts assign them to a project, and you need at least 1 or 2 years to get experience. So rather than knowledge, kind of a lot of intuitions and experience goes into that. So maybe that type of manpower, we can train them, because that is field workers that we need. And I don't know how to combine this with this one, but once we have these people trained fully, then they need to get really good salary. So to that, because it's smart people, then you need to pay for their smartness, and that will be a good investment for the company. So how to have a good wage level is very important, because not all companies can afford to hire good people at attractive salary. So on matching the wage expectations that the workers have is something that we need to think about. Another thing is that in terms of solving problems, that they're hiring them as full-time workers, maybe as a freelancer on a project basis, they come and go, solve issues and get paid, and then go to another project or another company. That could also be another business model. So all these three things, if they're combined together, then yes, it's not a long-term efficient solution, but Echo or Network 42, yes, we need that type of full-time worker training, but freelancer program or getting some wage support from the government could be a short-term solutions where we could use for the time being.
Please use microphone. Please use microphone. Please use microphone for interpretation service. There were now, so there were 50 people, but now everyone left, so only 5 people are involved. If we ask young people to do that, then not many people want to learn it. But there are many people who graduated for a couple of years, so robot handling is education, but we want high-skilled employees. There will be some proven employees and workers with experiences for instance for designing. I think they can learn from those people with experiences, case by case. We have to select those people to maintain the manpower. Robot handling and designing are separate works, but we don't have much manpower for design. My opinions on solutions. The key of what you just said, that there is no vision. The the talents that are coming into the industry don't see the vision. What kind of visions do they need? I think there are two visions that we can talk about. The first one is that I am working at what I am doing. In the past 5 years since I began this robot company, I had to recruit software anyway because of its remote location and small size of the company and no vision. So we worked for 3 years without any talents and then managed the business because we needed developments but we couldn't. So engineering graduates were hired. We selected one male, and one female. It's been 1 year since we recruited them. In the beginning, I had no idea how to train them and give them vision. We couldn't give them high salary because they were newly recruited with no experiences. After about 6 months, I've changed my mind because I am not a software major, so if I cannot train them, I realize that maybe I should companies like ours to train only a few employees for external agencies. The Seoul Science and Technology University's professors and our company developed a program and utilized a vision to detect robots' errors or to detect any faults. And those two employees were sent to the research lab of their university so that they could talk to the postgraduate and the doctorate researchers. So we made them go and have a look. And I could see that their faces completely different and changed. They were very passive when they were working at our company, but they witnessed the process of software development themselves and then what they should do, and they were highly motivated. It's been 3 months since the development, and they're not 100% satisfied, but I think compared to before, they have a lot more vision compared to before. They are more inspired. We didn't really increase their salaries, but when I talk to them privately and individually, they say that it will be great help for them in the future to learn this skill, and robot barista would be more widely spread in the future. And if they could enter the market in the initial phase, it would be great. So they feel more pride, and whenever I have opportunities, I send them to the research lab of the university, and I think they are always inspired every time they go there. I've invested a lot in employees, and even when we automated, we actually paid a high prices because we didn't have any experiences before. But whether it's 1 month or 2 months, I actually didn't have time to invest in them for whether it's for 1 month or 2 months. But once I made that investment to send them to the university, it made a great change. Sorry. Let me interrupt because we have a time constraint. But anyway, you have to make investment. And some SI companies that I know, do you know their salary? They actually get a as high salary as the large corporate executives.
Let them engage in communication. So if there's any other opinions or suggestions? Now, in terms of on the area of the manpower training or talent training, yes, we need to do that, but I believe something that we can do faster is collaborate or cooperate. For example, a lot of there are German software for FA, like food of Germany was created by through collaboration by 8 companies, and it's become worldwide used software. And also there is a vendor to Sony of Japan, and they do precision injection parts for making plastic. And I think assembly, welding, injection, they all do that. So they even create an injector, and that is very unique one because the factory manager himself creates 60 of them a year. So they used for their own injection, but they also sold their product to Korea and other countries. So this shows that when it comes to Japan, their parts and component and technology infrastructure is really solid. So even the factory manager himself can make about 60 injectors, which is sufficient for their own use and even giving to others. And in Germany, 8 software companies come together to make one software. And when it comes to Korea, we lack in cooperation. I think it's because technology and parts are not really standardized. Same with SIs. You have machines, electronics, and also software. All these are, mostly outsourced. But more than that, I think robots, SIs going forward, once it becomes more categorized, then I think we need more working together because the areas will be very small. So I hope it can be modularized and standardized, and it can be objectively assessed so that we can identify the technology level. I mean, we could give different level certificates. Then for the SI companies, they can use this technology very easily in a proven way, and that could also encourage collaboration and cooperation.
Thank you. I actually agree with you. In addition, senior researcher Jason, you talked about the technologies. I know that you've done those, but we don't know exactly what kind of technologies were created. If you can make that organized well, that they can be standardized, and talent fostering, you can actually open it up to educational institutes so that they can use it as teaching materials. I believe that Dr. Lee and other participants can provide lectures. So I think if you can provide some educations based on experiences, that would be great. Lastly, anyone who wants to make comments? I actually have something prepared, but to considering all of the things that have been said, I think there is something that we have to talk about. We had a presentation from Malaysia. I think 2 things about Korea. First of all, highly advanced technology. Secondly, industrial cooperative system. So that's how the overseas would see about Korea, whether it's supply chain or cooperative system. So the overseas would see that Korea would have that. You cannot do business alone, but what they expect from Korea is that once we contact this company, there would be a cooperative system. But actually, if you look closely, the cooperation is very weak. When overseas are seeing Korea, they see us as to have highly advanced technology in the cooperative system. But when it comes to cooperative system, I think we have very weak system. For technology, the government has the standardized process, and based on this standard process, we can create a total solution, and we can use this to enhance the level of technology. Whether it's welding, we can make a whole package of technologies for welding. So we should be able to sell this package. No matter how much you customize, the profitability is very low, but you have to work really hard. This is why the sales is really difficult. So highly advanced technologies, I think we have to utilize the standard process and continuously foster total solution for supply chain and cooperative system. The Industry 4.0 in Germany was implemented, but before that they had an industry alliance, which is a group. So the approval, certification, and assessments were all done based on that. And for Korea, we need a similar cooperative system. Robot SI platform and Robot SI business platform is something that I think we need to develop. I think that's the right direction to go. So when I say platform, just like a Korea's robot utilization projection, the providers and the clients can have a partnership. So the kind of business platform should be continuously fostered and discovered, and then I think it'll be a good help for us to expand our market into the overseas. In this regard, how can we have a highly advanced technology? Secondly, how can we have a good corporate system within the industry or within the supply chain? I think this is something that we have to continuously discuss and consult with each other. Sorry, maybe I said too much.
So my final comment is that yes, I think do you know where we are very good at? It's semiconductor-related devices, laser marker. You know, they really earn a lot of money because standardized and chip mounting device. We are also good in that. When it comes to electronics components, and you know, the robot there is really sophisticated because not because making robot is really tough, but because the robot itself is a process and it's by itself a smart factory. But we are good at it because a lot of people invested dozens of years in developing this. And I think 10 years ago, Sakura was the best, but it was overtaken by Korean companies. So by cell level standardization, it worked, and that was our approach. So that's something that we could do. And debugging, and then you need to do tests, but it's not really done easily because lack of flexibility. But if we make a project and really invest in it for years, I think we can tackle the issues. So again, if we have the vision and we have the core technology, if we have the vision and we have the core technologies, so we have some pieces, but who's going to train them and where do we train them? So that needs to be standardized, and we need government support in that area. So thank you. Due to time constraint, we need to wrap up here. I hope that we will have more of this type of opportunities going forward too. Yes, I am Kim Jang-woo from Robot Association. In this association, I think we were supposed to finish at 4:30, but thank you for staying until the end. And I think last October 30th, our institution was born. So it's been a year since our Korea Association of Robot Industry was born, and we wanted to do various activities, but because of COVID-19, we could really our hands were tied. But today we were actually going to also have a government representative, but due to schedule conflict, he could not make it. But I think there will be other opportunity where we could engage in constructive conversation with the government. So SI and how to link up with the customers and other things that you have mentioned, we will record them and also communicate that to the government so that we can make your future that much brighter. Thank you very much.
Lastly, can you all